we got a good trivia. Actually, I got a little help from the captain himself giving me a good one because we're going to have a fight-related trivia tonight. So we'll see how savvy our listeners are tonight. Of course, a lot of people, when they talk about MMA and UFC, they think about Dana White, who, of course, has recently sold his interest for, like, big bucks to someone. But he was not the original owner of UFC. In fact, that goes way back many years. That's tonight's question. And it was a pair of brothers, so you need to know both brothers' names. What were the names of the original owners of the UFC long before it became really popular, profitable, and mainstream, years gone by, and before Dana White ever get involved? You think you know the answer? As you call him, we'll keep Mr. DeLon awake there at the station.
He's DeLeon tonight.
DeLeon,
yeah.
682-4674, 682-0351. If you think you know the answer, you got to get a hold of Craig. And if you win, you could come down maybe next week when we're talking again with another former brewer who's now going to be playing in Japan this year, Casey McGahee, and roll some dice. We've had already Woody came down to roll from a couple of weeks ago. We got Austin Newberg that's going to roll during the next break. And this was a great question. But really happy to have, as he's known in the vernacular in the fight game, the captain, Morgan Sickinger. Hey, Morgan, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so how'd you get that nickname?
Yep.
How'd you get it?
We'll flash back a couple of years. So I'm 31 now. My first fight, I was 20. So over 11 years ago, we're driving up to Wausau for my first amateur fight. And a couple of my cornermen threw out some nicknames, like the Mauler or something. And I said, well, let's just go with be original and use the captain. They're like, well, that's too original. And most people as an amateur don't usually have a nickname. And I'd been a couple shows and I said, well, let's try it. And then it just stuck with me after that.
Sure, even when I posted some stuff on Facebook today, I kind of was saying the captain is coming, and all of a sudden I got people saying, oh, you mean Morgan Sickinger, huh? So, I mean, people know this relationship, right, Morgan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You dreamed to have Bruce Buffer announce your name? Fighting
awesome.
Out of the red corner or whatever. You dream of that one day?
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be great. Well, give us a little Wayback Machine stuff, because like you said, you're still a young guy, but obviously you've got a lot of miles in this game already. Like you said, 10, 11 years already. What kind of motivates someone to get into this very vicious sport, I guess I'll call it? I mean, obviously, you've seen the inside and behind the curtain and everything. I mean, does this kind of go back from days gone by when you were growing up as a young kid and maybe you were a little smaller than some of the other kids and you wanted to learn to kind of, counteract the bullies? And I'm just making this up. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. What kind of motivated you to get into this?
It goes back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Really?
But when I started out, I was I'm competitive. I'm always a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my motivation, that I like competition. And my first amateur fight, I went out because I thought I was a tough guy, and they said they're going to give me a couple bucks and free drinks after, and I was like, well, heck, you get paid to do this? All right.
Sign me up, huh?
And that was for pennies back then. That was my first fight. I got $50 to show up, $50 for gas, and then
Really?
As an amateur, it was a stipend. You're not supposed to get paid as an amateur, and then they gave me a DVD of the fight, and they gave us free drinks, and we're like, heck, can we do this every weekend?
Nice.
That's almost 12 years ago.
I mean, like you said, it's kind of hard to believe where this sport has kind of grown, exponentially in the last 10 years.
I've seen it evolve.
To be honest, I mean, when you and your buddies were, like you said, just kind of starting out at this amateur level, and maybe you were kind of even thinking, hey, maybe I can make this a little side income career. Did anyone realistically ever think that this could blossom to where it was?
I never imagined that I'd be, on my record, I've fought 5 UFC vets already.
Wow. And you got a winning record as a pro. I know I kind of did a little homework on you there,
Okay.
So that's good. And obviously, there's a lot of people that probably think that, like you said, just being a tough guy is all that's really required. And I'm sure, you probably, corrected a lot of people there that, you got to be a lot more than just a tough guy to actually succeed in this thing, right? You probably knocked out a lot of tough guys in a couple of minutes, right?
It's a relentless, ruthless sport.
Okay.
There's not a lot of glory in it until you make it big time.
Well, Morgan Sickinger joining us on WOMT Sports Talk from Buffalo Wild Wings. He is right here from Manitowoc. His overall mark, by the way, is a 17-9. He weighs about $165, he told me, but he fights out of the featherweight division in the MMA, which is a 145. Now, Morgan, I'm going to ask you a real dumb question. You weigh 165, but you fight in the 145 featherweight division.
2 days,
Where,
20 pounds, right?
where's the discrepancy? How does that all figure?
Muscle weighs more than fat, Brian.
And
That's right.
how does that all factor out?
Well, as professional fighters, even amateurs now, you weigh in a night before. You have about 24 to 27 hours before you compete. When you weigh in at skill, you want to be as light as you can, and you have 27 hours to rehydrate. The next day, they don't weigh you, and my walking around weight is about 165, 160, give or take. That's where I feel the healthiest. And when I have a fight, I end up dieting, and I'll get pretty close to my weight, about 5-10 pounds within, and then the last 5-10 pounds I'll sweat out, usually the day of. But I start dieting about 2 months to 6 to 8 weeks out. That's when we consider a fight camp, is 6 to 8 weeks out from a fight.
So do they BMI you? Do they pinch you?
No,
At all? Not at all.
Only for,
They pinch him, he hits him. That's right.
that's only for NCAA and high school WIA.
Okay.
No, but let's be fair, Morgan. I mean, you know guys probably themselves, and we've all read stories about, some of the people that are trying to, whether it's in, MMA, UFC, boxing, that the day before, the weigh-in, they literally almost have to, live in a sauna and, be in plastic garbage bags or whatever you guys do to lose, 20 pounds, in 12 hours. Even if you make weight, I can't imagine, how could you actually be ready to fight? I mean, you would be so drained, I would think, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know.
You are a little bit drained, but again, like I said, you're competing way over a day.
Other guys
later.
that are doing the same thing, probably.
And people ask, well, how come you don't fight up a weight class? Well, then it's just a vicious cycle. They're doing the same thing. You get a guy coming from 185 pounds to go to 155. So it's more of a safety precaution. If you're not doing it, I have fought a couple times at 155, and I won 3 of those fights. 3 times I ever fought at 55, but the opponent maybe was lesser skilled. I was a little bit quicker, but I could feel the difference in strength. If that guy, when he sprawled, I'm like, holy crap, this guy's a little bit stronger. It's like, that's usually when I compete at 45, I've never felt like I was the weaker guy.
Even a 10-pound difference could have a dramatic
Exactly.
difference in power of punches, endurance, and everything, right?
Exactly. In a gym, we practice with people all different weights. I've sparred light heavyweights, middleweights, whatever you want to call it. And you can feel the power. I feel I have more of an advantage at 145. I've tried to go down to 135. That's too drastic. 145 I feel is where.
What's the lowest weight in that kind of competition?
For male is flyweight 125. Females go down to 115.
Yeah. Morgan Sickinger of Manitowoc, Wisconsin, an MMA fighter, joining us here on WOMT Sports Talk. I want to talk a little bit, Morgan, about your career. 17-9 is where you are as a professional. And there was a while there where I believe you won 5 matches in a row.
Correct. Yep.
Then you got injured, right?
Yes.
What was the injury? Was it in a fight or in training?
I was in training, sparring night. It was a kind of a freak thing. I've had a couple knee issues over the years, and I was sparring Friday night up in Green Bay, and I slipped out of a knee bar, and it wasn't intentional. My shin guard actually got caught in the legs on a person's knee, and it kind of held and it snapped, and that was it.
Bad luck, really.
It wasn't a I actually finished practice. My adrenaline kept going, and I figured, I was like, oh, maybe I just pulled something, and I iced it up for about 2 weeks, went back, and after about a month I realized, okay, this is not going to heal up, and then with insurance and everything, took about 3 to 4 months until I even got surgery. I didn't get surgery till April. I tore it December.
Wow.
Didn't get surgery till April.
I tell you what, let's hold that thought. I want to get a break in here.
Lots of stuff
Then I want to talk a little bit about those 2 years and how trying it was. Thoughts you had, good, bad, or indifferent, and the fortitude it took to be able to get back into the ring to a point where now at 31, a lot of people think, well, maybe you're growing a gray beard, why do this? We'll do some reflecting with Morgan Sickinger when we come back, a Manitowoc MMA fighter from Buffalo Wild Wings in Manitowoc, the home of Sports Talk on WOMT. The quarterback steps up to the line and marks out signals.
It seems like everyone is shouting satisfied customers and enjoy worry-free service from a Big Apple Pub and Grill. When it comes to a trucking company that's locally owned and operated, there's 3 names you need to know.
Original owners before it became popular, profitable, and mainstream of UFC. And again, the only hint is it wasn't Dana White, who kind of is synonymous with it these days.
He did. Dana White did actually approach these people for the money, so he was involved, and then he was a spokesperson, but he basically got a loan from these 2 brothers.
Okay, so it was a pair of brothers that we need the name again to win. Otherwise, Morgan will reveal the answer at the end of the show. And again, lots of interesting stuff here, Brian, on this whole thing. And Morgan, we were talking off the air. I think people would be kind of interested to see that there's a real correlation of guys that get into the MMA and UFC with college wrestling backgrounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you were in wrestling, but you were just mentioning a lot of the guys you've been fighting lately, wins and losses, were pretty successful college wrestlers. Right?
Yeah, my last 2 opponents, for a fact, were both Division I college wrestlers.
Wow.
One for the Badgers and one for Wyoming State.
You think there's kind of a pent up, wrestling, you're kind of, limited on the holds and everything on the mat, and now you actually get to stand up and really knock the snot out of someone? I mean, is that part of it, do you think, or not?
I think, little fact here, my senior year in college, I did a trivia on that. I started a thesis if I'd go on for a master's. I polled my wrestling team, and I asked them, took a couple students, also wrestlers, and polled them and said, what motivates somebody to get in MMA? And the majority of the wrestlers on the college level did not want to fight. They were too afraid to get punched in the face, but in a practice room they'd be aggressive. But if there was a strike that could get thrown at them, we had state champions in our practice room that would have never thought about fighting, but they loved wrestling. So I guess it's all the mentality where I don't look at fighting as I'm going to beat you up. It's more of it's a challenge. It's a martial art to me. I want to beat you, but it's not that I hate you. I think 95% of the people I fought after I shook their hand, there's a 5% of the couple people I fought that I very dislike, but 95% of the guys we get along after we shake hands.
There's a common respect factor, whether you win or lose, right?
Yep, whether you win or lose, and typically after we'll talk, might buy each other a drink or hug, shake your hands. After you just got done beating each other up for 15 minutes, it's just like a wrestling. I take it like a wrestling match. It's competitive. I want to win.
Some class to it.
In those 15 minutes, I want to be the better opponent. After, sometimes there is bad blood. I've had a couple of fights where I had one of my wins was disqualification. A guy needed me on the ground, and he knew it was illegal, and for a fact he didn't care. He did kind of a flying knee as a grounded opponent. They have now since then changed the UFC rule now that if you have a hand down, you can be kneed in the head now. But that was a rule at that time in 2007 when I was knocked out. One of my sisters was actually present at that fight, and she's sitting over there. But
yeah, do you ever worry? I mean, obviously in like football and soccer, we hear this ongoing debate about the involvement of concussions and the long-term thing. Now, I would imagine when you're kickboxing and MMA and UFC, I mean, you're getting hit in the head a lot of this thing. Does that really worry you or not?
I do know it's a possibility. It's with anything. You can get it in wrestling. You could fall down and get a concussion. I've seen people lesser, get a concussion from something simple. It can happen. It's part of the sport. We try to tame it down in practice. From when I started 12 years ago, it was more of a vicious. Now we've developed better training techniques. Like anything, this sport is, the overall MMA is very young. It's now becoming more mainstream, where we're learning better ways, more efficient ways, safer ways to practice, versus 12 years ago where we just thought you just beat each other up. But now there's actual techniques.
Method of the madness.
Yep, even your local gyms are becoming very well established. Versus prestige, we have a couple good gyms in Wisconsin. I train at Unified Martial Arts in Fond du Lac, Fox Cities. I originally went to school at UW Oshkosh, so I'm very familiar with the Fox Cities. Trained in Appleton at Fox Valley Grappling Club. That was more just a jiu-jitsu gym, and after a couple of years I expanded. And then UMA is more of it's a kickboxing gym. We do have jiu-jitsu. We have all the programs. We have 6 different programs there.
Wow. Amazing.
Well, Morgan Sickinger, a Manitowoc MMA fighter, joining us on WOMT Sports Talk. And before we went to break, we talked a little bit about that injury you suffered, the knee injury that kept you out for 2 years. And you were saying injury is a part of the sport, but it can also be one of the more difficult times, especially emotionally, for an athlete to know what lies ahead for him or her. After you had the surgery, you mentioned 3 to 4 months afterwards, then you get up, you get moving, and you know a very difficult rehab is going to begin. Talk about that rehab. Talk about those days. And were there some dark days in there, Morgan, where you're thinking, man, what am I doing this for? Or did you have a vision someday to where you are now to say, hey, it was all worth it?
Well, I'd say it was worth it, but yeah, I did go through some struggles, a lot of things at the time. They actually had surgeries. The Badgers were playing North Carolina in the finals, and I had surgery after, and Dr. Henry did orthopedics, very good, very phenomenal doctor, did a great job, fully healed up now. Actually, before I started competing again, I trained for over a full year until I got into competing. So yeah, it was a 2-year gap, but there was a full year where I trained it until I got back in the cage. I didn't just heal up and then go back to competing. I wanted to make sure I was ready. So it wasn't just, so yeah, you see the 2-year gap, but I was training for a full year until I started competing again.
Now, physically, you got to be in tough shape, obviously. But I hear all the time, you know, these commenters during MMA fights, cardio, endurance, because you got 3 5-minute rounds and you're getting the snot beat out of you and you're running around that ring. How important is being in cardiovascular shape to your overall success as a fighter?
It's huge. Also, being able to go in spurts with lactic acid, you need to know when to pour it on and when to slow down. If you went super hard for a whole round, you might not be yourself in the second, third round. So a lot of it's being able to, almost like a track runner. You're going to sprint for that short amount. It's not a cross country. I used to always think you want to run forever, but it's just a little sprint. You want to be able to tee off in those couple 20, 30-second increments where you finish the fight, or you're always looking to finish. You see a lot of fights where a lot of established fighters will feel each other out for the first round. They're waiting for that second, that reach. All of a sudden, I know if I can get my glove out to your face, that all of a sudden at 20, 30 seconds, if I want to go, I could finish the fight.
Have you seen other guys that you fought or trained with that had kind of similar injuries or bad injuries that came back too fast, in your opinion?
Yeah, I actually did one of another fighter. He a little bit older than me. So with your ACL, you can have 3 different surgeries. I did the patellar tendon, which Dr. Henry and I talked about. He knew that my style was more wrestling, and that I do actually coach high school wrestling at Two Rivers. He knew that a patellar would be a better choice for my recovery, whereas you could do a hamstring or you could also do cadaver. One of my friends that trains up at Fox Valley Grappling Club, which was one of my first gyms ever after I got out of the kind of tough guy mentality of just local guys here and then started expanding, he did the cadaver. And he did good. He was able to, you're actually able to recover faster. But after he started training again, he's had complications with it, and so that now he's kind of back to square one again.
Okay, interesting. Let's take our final break, because I want to have Morgan kind of tell us what's around the corner. I mean, now he's kind of fully healed. He's back in the game. I know we talked off the air. He's got some upcoming fights. I want Morgan to kind of let people know what's going around the corner.
Yeah, and we'll also check and see if we get a trivia winner. And we got high school hoops coming up 7:10 from the JFK as the Ship boys take on Pulaski. Morgan Sickinger, MMA fighter right here from Manitowoc, joining us from Buffalo Wild Wings, the home of sports talk on WOMT.
Experience the difference of the Holiday Inn in Manitowoc. Listen to what...
As well as lawn and garden items. Andrecraft Woods is located at 620 East Church Street in Michigan.
You have the right to fill your prescription at the pharmacy of your choice. Don't feel strong-armed into filling a prescription at the end of the hall. Instead, stop in the locally owned pharmacy that will go the extra step to take care of you. The Medicine Shop, caring beyond prescriptions.
When it comes to supporting the Lakeshore community, McMullen and Pitts Construction Companies...
In beginning of any previous UFC pay-per-views, they say the Zuffa brothers.
Okay, that's how you say their name. Okay.
Well, be it for Teddy, but
yep,
that's their production.
Sounds good. And of course, they're kicking themselves, like I told you off the air, that knowing the kind of stash that Dana White got the other day, a couple months ago, that was laughing all the way to the bank. Now, one thing, there's probably some people that you fight with or train with that this is all they do. maybe they're lucky enough that this is their whole game. But I mean, you've got a regular JOB, and you're the coach at the high school wrestling and everything. What do you do how do you sneak all this stuff in here?
Right now this winter, my focus was on, I just achieved my purple belt 2 weeks ago in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is halfway through the curriculum. Took me about...
Is that like the top belt, or...?
No, it goes white, blue, purple, brown, black.
Okay.
Purple's halfway through. Took me 12 years due to about 2-3 major injuries. Tore the ACL. When I was younger, I broke my fibula doing Greco wrestling.
Wow.
I had an orbital fracture. That was from coaching wrestling.
But you always come back for more.
Yeah, I keep coming, I guess.
Do you ever have any doubts about, is this worth it, to come back? Because I'm probably going to get hurt again. Or, a guy like you, I mean, you love this so much that as long as, age is still kind of on your side, you're going to come back.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. I've kind of now set a goal that, next 2-3 years before I hit 35 will kind of be the end. I got a couple little goals I want to hit yet. I'm 17-10 professional. I have 1 draw. I'd like to eventually reach at least 20 wins, and then amongst there hit more of a bigger promotion. I did recently sign about a month ago with a big-time manager out of Minneapolis, and he's got kind of the same game plans for me. He said he's going to kind of handpick my next opponent or two, get some momentum, and then he said you'll be able to get in a big league with his help. So manager, if you guys aren't familiar with that, they do take a little part of your pay. Like my last fight, I got couple $1,000s to fight, sold tickets, but a manager will take a percentage of that. But then they will take care and they'll do scouting for your opponents. Like before, I'd let my coach do that, and I figured now would be a good time. I want to wrap up the end of my career, so I signed with a bigger time manager that will go ahead and kind of help manage my fights. I do have to pay him part of the income, so now it's not just going to straight directly my coach. I do make a portion of that, but I do have, like you said, a JOB, a job. I work here in Manitowoc County, actually, for our, it's called Justice Point. We're an independent contractor through the county. I work a youth wellness center. I'm a manager. We work with troubled youth through various things.
That's awesome.
They're primarily teenagers, typically 13, 14 to anywhere 16, 17. Once they're 17, 18, they're grandfathered off our program, but they could be on our program for various reasons. But troubled youth, basically we're kind of a mentor to them. We help them, try to show them pro-social things they can do in our community where they may have fallen on a peer pressure trap with an antisocial peer.
Cool. That's cool. So you got some upcoming fights the spring and summer, right?
I'm hoping sometime late spring, probably most likely early summer. I've been training all winter. Been also helping out Two Rivers Wrestling Team assistant coach. We have 6 coaches there, three primary coaches and 3 assistant coaches. We are sending 4 to individual state this weekend. State starts Thursday. This year we did not qualify for team state. We had a couple significant injuries on the team, but we still were able to piece together.
Individuals, right?
Yeah, we were still able to piece together 4 great individuals that'll represent really well from Two Rivers. But yeah, it was unfortunate. Injuries do happen. It's a tough sport. Injuries happen in martial arts, wrestling, anything that's physical. Football, basketball, baseball, golf.
It's part of the deal. Part of the deal. Let me ask you this, because I mean, we all here as just sort of sideline fans of this stuff. This supposed talk about, let's get Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor in a cage or whatever together.
Just talk.
If that would ever happen, what's your prediction? If it would ever happen, who's going to kill who?
If it would, it's clear cut. Floyd Mayweather would win. It's a martial art. It's like taking a wrestler versus a boxer. Who's going to win?
Okay.
So you're taking a boxer versus MMA.
To make Mayweather just do,
Yeah, if we did the other way around, if we did Mayweather do MMA, he would lose to Conor. It's a discipline. There's difference in it. Conor is a good MMA boxer. He's good for mixed martial arts boxing, but he's not going to be able to play Floyd Mayweather's game in boxing.
But if he gets it, he can laugh all the way to the bank, right?
He could, but
You think it'll ever happen?
No, Commission's never going to let it happen. He doesn't have enough amateur boxing fight. You need X amount of fights to even fight Floyd Mayweather.
I see. So it's all just talk.
It's all talk. And the common fan is just going to buy into it and say, oh, yeah, it's never going to happen.
Morgan, thanks a lot for taking time. I hope we could get you on a future show, maybe after you got a couple more W's on the fights this spring and summer, okay?
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Morgan Sickinger right here from Manitowoc, Wisconsin. Yeah, and he'll be hopefully fighting a little bit more.
We're going to have some
here
winners
comes
after
spring
the show. Stick around,
and
people.
Summer. And we got hoops coming up, and again, Greg next week, former Brewer, and one of our favorite guests on the show, Casey McGee, is going to be.
He hasn't played for a lot of years.
Yeah, but
Casey McGee.
Yeah, he's going to be on.
Over in Japan.
Yes, he did, and we're going to have a chat with him coming up next week on the program. And we are just about out of time, as we're going to make room for Damon Ryan and his crew getting ready to call some hoops on WOMT tonight, as the Manitowoc Lincoln Ships are taking on Pulaski, and it's hard to believe, final week of the regular season, girls tournament beginning tomorrow night with opening round games, and this winter sports season's very quickly starting to scoot by us. But it's one of the greatest times of the year. Morgan talking about wrestling, the state individual wrestling tournament. Just one more thing to add about that. The Parade of Champions is one of the greatest things you ever want to see. If you want to head to the Kohl Center and see something spectacular and special, get a chance to see it. It is incredible. Yeah, we'll be back at our normal time, 6:30 to 7:30 next week. Right now, time to make room for high school basketball. So, for Greg Anderson, Harley Engel, and Greg Dillon back at our WOMT studios, and our special guest, Morgan Sickinger, tonight, Brian Norton saying thank you for being a part of the program tonight, and